So this is what I put up on Twitter today. One of the things I put up. If there was anyone still wondering if Plunkett is actively seeking conspiracists while trying to distance himself from them by calling them cookers, we talked about that last week, and then this lawsuit last night. I give you today's guest. And this is the gentleman who is the producer, one of the producers of the River of Freedom documentary series. I listened to the interview, so you don't have to. I had it on 1.5 speed. Not a single critical question for his guest while calling the film culturally significant.
Oh,
so
okay.
that was Plunkett's take on this film. I haven't seen the film. I don't want to be one of those people who goes, well, it's a load of bullshit before I see it. If I see it, I probably will see it because, know thine enemy. But I have to say that if I can debunk you and show your dis and misinformation in the interview about the film, when you're saying one of the main points of the film is X, and I can debunk X, I don't hold it in very high regard for being a successfully, I don't even care if it's not balanced, accurate, truthful. Let's put those words out there. It doesn't have to be balanced. You're allowed to put a bias or a perspective out there, but I don't hold it in very high regard to be accurate, Chewy.
Yeah. I one thought springs to mind, right? If this is culturally significant, what was Karen's opinion of Fire and the Fury?
Not a single. I mean, if Karen had gone off about Fire and Fury and been critical and asked all those questions and done the same to this person, you'd go, at least you're consistent.
Fair enough.
But no.
Yeah. Because things can be culturally significant without you agreeing with them when it comes to this. But like Fire and the Fury was researched. It was really good. I haven't seen this thing either. River of Freedom. These people, good God.
I mean, I probably will watch it. I won't go to a movie and I won't pay for it. I'll have a look at it. I'll find it and have a look online. Maybe we'll even do some debunking. I say that quite arrogantly, but the idea that the thing that I've done 2 or 3 times, conspiracy theorists are always wrong, ... mostly. Because, once in a blue moon, something will be right. And then they'll hang on to that being the completely reason they're always right. My suspicions are it'll be full of exaggerations. I mean, if you watch the trailer for it, which I did watch today, actually, it talks about, police using violence, yada, yada, yada. And, of course, it paints the protesters in Wellington as innocent, non-violent, basically bystanders being attacked by the police, which,
of course,
it's easy to get a clip of someone being dragged out of a place by police and making it look like it was all just violent. And the IPCA said there were some questions still to answer. There's no question about that. But, I suspect. You know what? I don't care about bias. I'm biased. We're all biased on some level. I care about accuracy. I don't care about bias either if it's your opinion. Right, but if you put it out there as a factual documentary, then it needs to be factual. So let's get to this conversation, right? I'm only going to play 2 short clips, and I've done as much as I can not to put the stack of pancake mix on the screen. So this is Jared Connan. He is he seems to have quite a good CV when it comes to filmmaking. He was involved in the team that did Lord of the Rings, and he was one of the... he was behind the scenes doing some kind of role. And he's done a few movies and he's produced some things. So I guess I'm not mocking his or taking apart his ability to make content. But he was talking about one of the main focuses of the documentary. And I'll play it for you. And then we'll show you why he's wrong in the interview about one of the major features of the film. So if he's wrong in the interview about it, as I said, that doesn't make me believe that it's going to be a particularly accurate film. So I think the question is being asked about, let's just play the clip. This is Jared Connan this morning speaking to Karen.
And we speak to it in the documentary quite a bit, that the politicians never came out to speak to speak to the people, and that was the issue. And that issue has not been resolved, and that has not been addressed. And we are, adamant that there needs to be some kind of consideration given to what the people were saying, because the Royal Inquiry's going to, in my opinion, just glaze over it. They're not really there to dig into it, and we want to make sure that there is an open conversation, an open dialogue, and this is why we're talking to the Free Speech Union, and they're looking, they're considering supporting the project because they can see the importance of the message in the film as well.
Yeah. So, a couple of things. The first thing is the Free Speech Union, he's claiming, sees importance in the message. That's very different from seeing importance in the ability for someone to share their views, whether you agree or disagree with them. I would like to think that Mr. Connon has misspoken there, because what he just said was the Free Speech Union support the message in the film. The Free Speech Union would often come out as, I believe them to be a right-wing psyop and a fake front for right-wing talking points, but they do normally come out talking about the freedom to share views. They don't often necessarily endorse the views, although I think they do, but they publicly don't. And what he's just said is they support the message in the film. So we'll wait and see about that. But if they do, that just echoes everything, unless Mr. Connon has just unfortunately revealed a little bit of the backroom talking that maybe the Free Speech Union won't talk about, but they've said some things behind the scenes, perhaps. But the most important thing I wanted to say is he was talking about why the politicians didn't come out and speak to the people. And this is a quote. When he talked about it, he says, "That has not been addressed." So the politicians not coming out to speak to the people, the protesters, has not been addressed. And he made it very clear, Chewy, correct me if I'm wrong, he made it very clear that that was a pretty big focus of the documentary. Is that how you heard that?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So he says that has not been addressed. That's a big focus of the documentary. Here's the IPCA report addressing that. So he said it hasn't been addressed. We've done this once before when Chantal Baker said something similar. This is it being addressed. There is no engagement between the protest leaders and the cabinet ministers or current members of parliament, apart from the leader of the ACT party, pardon me, who met with a group of protesters on 16 Feb. The protest leaders sought such engagement, and this was one of their main aims, right? So one of their main aims was to have engagement. They raised this with police, other agencies, and through the media, right? So that's what they wanted. Remember, this has not been addressed. It has not been addressed why politicians would not meet with the protesters. That's his claim, and that's his claim for one of the major parts of the documentary. The commissioner discussed this request directly with the then Prime Minister at a ministerial briefing on 16 Feb and asked if she would meet with the protest. She told us that her inclinations were to always meet with people, but in this instance, she had thought carefully about such an option and had over a week observed the protesters' actions, signs, bollards and behaviours on Parliament grounds. The then Prime Minister explained that after COVID-19 lockdowns were lifted, certain individuals began following her and protesting as she travelled around the country. And this had become a regular practice. On two separate occasions, she had tried to engage with those protesters directly in much smaller numbers, but found it impossible to do so because she was shouted down, abused, and had to withdraw in fear for her safety. In her view, the Prime Minister's view, there were the following considerations against engagement. Remember, he says these have not been addressed. A section of the protesters at Parliament were not a new gathering. They had followed her before and raised their issues. Only the size of the protest was different. There was no designated leadership, which made it difficult to engage. The group had violent and threatening elements, witnessed by the billboards, signs, and direct threats to her and politicians in general. She did not want to set a precedent that if protesters occupy Parliament grounds, then Prime Ministers would talk with them. All ministers, and indeed all members of Parliament from all parties, agrees that they would not engage directly with the protesters. Now,
Winston,
I don't know about you. He wasn't a member of Parliament. I don't know about you, but that sounds like it's been addressed. Now, he may say, in my opinion, I am not going to accept what they've said, But his main point in that conversation that I just played was the documentary is going to focus a lot about how the politicians wouldn't engage with the protesters, and that has not been addressed. That is false, and we've just proven it. What does that say about the documentary, Joey?
Yeah, absolutely. Like this guy seems to be hammering a point that we're just making a reasonable request. We just want a dialogue. We just want to be listened to. The behaviour that was seen, the threats that were made. I still remember seeing that massive chalk writing saying "hang him." And it's just like, why would you expect anyone to engage with that level of dialogue?
I just will come back to I'll just come back to what he said. Yeah. That has not been addressed. Why they wouldn't meet with him, that has not been addressed. It's literally been addressed. It's literally been released. The information is there. It has been addressed. Now, perhaps, because remember that IPCA report came out, 2 months ago? He's been making the documentary for 15, 16, 18 months, 2 years, who knows? Maybe at one point it hadn't been addressed, and so that line was truthful, it made sense, but now it has been addressed. But he still says that's a major focus of the documentary. I want to show you one other thing as well. There's one other thing as to why Mr. Connon and Karen, backing him up, says that the major motion picture groups won't distribute this for him. Why do you think they might not want to distribute? Do you think it's got to do with the content? Do you think it's got to do with, well, who knows? This is why he thinks, groups won't pick it up to distribute it.
Okay, how long's the movie?
It's actually quite long. It was quite a long protest. We were there for 21 days. We couldn't get the regular 90 minutes, so it does run at 2.5 hours. So
okay,
a few of the theatres are sort of shied away from it for that reason, because it doesn't fit their regular slots. But there's no.
Did you get that? Theatres have shied away from it because it's 2.5 hours. I'll just play for you that again.
Yeah.
Okay, how long's the movie?
It's actually quite long. It was quite a long protest. We were there for 21 days. We couldn't get the regular 90 minutes, so it does run at 2.5 hours. So
okay,
a few of the theatres are sort of shied away from it for that reason, because it doesn't fit their regular slots. But there's no blue people running around in it that took 3 hours. So I'm not too sure why they're steering away from it, Sean. But that's
all right.
Part of the conversation.
I was talking about this.
So the reason that it's not being distributed by major motion picture distributors is because it's too long. That's the pitch by Mr. Connon on this. Now, I don't have a beef with Mr. Connon. I don't want to go out against him. It's nothing to do with him personally. But what I will insist on is truthfulness and facts and figures to back it up. Say what you want about Fire and Fury. I have spent a lot of time looking at it, looking it up, actually investigating some of the claims in there. I haven't found falsities in it yet. As long as it's accurate, it can be the opposing view. Fill your boots. Your turn.
I mean, there are films that are 2.5, 3 hours. And you know what? They're big Hollywood productions with a huge budget behind them and a huge potential draw of punters to go and see it. Like most recently, Oppenheimer, he mentions Avatar, some of the biggest, most successful movies out there. You're dominating the real estate of the cinema, and you would hope that there would be enough people to support that run, right? I can't imagine that there is a massive pull for this movie. I've been watching with interest like another movie that this crowd has latched onto, that sex trafficking one that they badgered production companies.
The one with all the fake ticket sales. Have you seen those things going around?
Oh, I haven't seen the fake ticket sales. No, I've seen a lot of people on social media going, "Why aren't the theaters showing this?" And
look it up on TikTok. Look it up on TikTok. What's happening is movie theaters are selling out, and there's been lots of TikTokers who have gone to the movie next door and then ducked into the cinema where it's been shown, and there's not a single person in the cinema, but all the tickets have been purchased. So to make it look like it's being more successful,
someone's burning
some group, pardon me, is buying out cinemas to make it look more successful.
Well, yeah, but look, if he can go, hey, look, the distribution companies don't want to touch us. Oh, well, that's a nice little conspiracy that he can spin up as well. It's just like, look, dude, your movie has a limited draw, and it's probably the people that were at Parliament. Just have an outdoor movie somewhere. You'll say, hey, look, production companies and movie theaters don't want to screen this, so buy it on my website.
They are taking it to some cinemas, but they're distributing it themselves, and I think they said the Civic's going to host one actually as well. So in Civic in Auckland, so it is going to some places, but it'll be shown for 1 or 2 nights. And I'm not disparaging people making content, yada yada yada. And look, I guess the other thing is we got to be careful because having such a brilliantly bearded brother, we got to have some empathy for the man. I mean, look at him; that's spectacular.
It's a pretty good bed.